AIDS epidemic, gay men, I'll say gay men, I don't know about lesbians, but I think maybe also, were perceived by the mainstream culture as being inferior, ineffective, incapable, and morally wrong, possibly deserving of being imprisoned or putting in mental institutions. And I think what happened during the AIDS epidemic, as horrible as it was that gay men and lesbians came together and developed models of care that were followed around the world to care for people who were sick and dying with HIV. We did it, and we didn't have much help doing it, but we did it.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman. Not Born Yesterday examines the problems and solutions of growing older today. We bring you the wisdom and voices of experts in the field of aging and offer tips on how to feel your best, use your lifetime skills and experience, and make the coming months and years as fulfilling as possible.
I'm Lynn Winter-Gross. Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village San Francisco, a local nonprofit providing older adults with support to help age in place, and by Assisted Living Locators, a San Francisco Bay Area senior care advisory service, helping families make informed decisions about senior care and living options.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we are reminding listeners that not everyone experiences aging the same way. Some of us get older surrounded by family. Others are far away from support systems they thought they could count on. Still, others have created their own kind of family as they age. Among the latter is the LBGTQ community of older adults. Today, we're examining what makes this community age differently and why it matters to all of us. There are almost 3 million LGBTQ adults over 50 in the United States today. Many of these older adults face a unique set of challenges. Some suffered from discrimination in their careers, in medical care, or were rejected by families, friends, and communities. Although times and attitudes have changed, there are still multiple obstacles for older adults in the LGBTQ community.
Our guests today are Bill Haskell and Sarah Thompson. Bill was a long-term care strategist for the San Francisco Department of Disability and Aging Services. Sarah was a therapist serving the LGBTQ community and also a counselor at City College of San Francisco, where she served a diverse population. Today, they both facilitate support groups for gay men and lesbians at the San Francisco Village and have worked to help other older gay adults age positively. Bill and Sarah, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start with the basic. Who are the LGBTQ elders, and why might their experiences differ from others in the aging population?
There are many LGBTQ elders, as you pointed out, 3 million at this point in time across the country. We live in San Francisco, so I think Sarah and I would agree that we live in a kind of bubble here that does not necessarily reflect the experience of LGBTQ people across the country. I would say, from what my research has shown, that LGBTQ people are 2 times more likely to live alone. They're 5 times more likely not to be married. They're 2 times more likely not to have children. And many have faced poverty, homelessness, and have poor physical and mental health because of a lifetime of discrimination and stress.
And when you add to that our parents were of an older generation that were less accepting of LGBT issues, when we have a breakup or a divorce, very often we don't get the same family support. I know I didn't get the same support, even though my family was pretty LGBT sensitive. You don't get the same support. I know a woman who her partner of 40 years died. Her parents still can't say her partner's name. They still can't acknowledge it. So that adds to the lack of support and the sense of isolation. And I think just like for all seniors, isolation and loneliness is an issue.
I think what you're talking about is we're talking about older, and who knows what older really means.
Yeah.
But I was playing tennis this morning, and I was telling one of my partners that I was doing this interview today, and she said, my brother is married to a man who's 10 years younger. And the fact is that their experiences are so different. The one who's younger didn't live through the AIDS crisis, doesn't understand some of the things that she says. And I'm just wondering, from both of you, what is the residual effect of HIV on the aging gay community today?
Yeah, I think that it is a huge impact. I think the AIDS epidemic, and those of us like Sarah's and my age, gay men and lesbians who live through it, it's a wound that is so deep it's almost hard to describe. And it is like living through a war. One thing that did come out of it was that the lesbians in San Francisco, anyway, came to the fore and helped gay men who were sick and dying with HIV across the city. It was an amazing time, but it was a devastating time. And we lost a generation of friends and loved ones and colleagues that can never be replaced. And so my experience is that it's devastating. It was devastating to me, and I've recovered from it, but it's a wound that will never be completely healed.
Yes, I really have to agree with that. My friends my age who went through it still talk about their loved ones that they lost, and good friends, how many friends they lost. And even straight people talk about it. I mean, in San Francisco, it was just so devastating. But as you said, Bill, one of the wonderful things was the lesbian community and the gay men's community was kind of estranged before HIV. But I think we came together in compassion and came together in the fight for progress in terms of treatment for HIV.
I will add that before the AIDS epidemic, gay men, I'll say gay men, I don't know about lesbians, but I think maybe also, were perceived by the mainstream culture as being inferior, ineffective, incapable, and morally wrong, possibly deserving of being imprisoned or putting in mental institutions. And I think what happened during the AIDS epidemic, as horrible as it was that gay men and lesbians came together and developed models of care that were followed around the world to care for people who were sick and dying with HIV. We did it. And we didn't have much help doing it, but we did it.
What were the models?
Before HIV, there was a desire to put people in more of an institutional setting. And San Francisco considered that, but that didn't work out. And so we developed the AIDS model of community-based long-term care. So nonprofit organizations developed across the city. Project Open Hand to develop home-delivered meals to people. The San Francisco AIDS Foundation to develop or to provide emotional and practical support to people all across the city. Visiting nurses in hospice that provided care to gay men who were dying of AIDS in the street. We developed Coming Home Hospice, the first AIDS hospice in the United States. I oversaw the development of that facility. We had Surgeon General C. Everett Koop at the opening. We had people from London and Europe and all around the world come to visit because they didn't know how to do it, and we did it. So I have to say that out of the horror of that epidemic was the wonderful fact that we learned how to care and love and support each other, gay men and lesbians working hand in hand.
We talk about the concept of family. So I assume that new families were formed based around what was happening. Many people don't have family. As you mentioned in the open, they don't have children, they've lost their partners, and you have to form a new community of family. How does that work?
I think that in the gay male community, probably in both, but I'll just speak for me, Gay men form partnerships and friendships. Sometimes you have a partner, sometimes you don't, but we form networks of friendships. And so the support network is all or mostly all of the same generation. It is not like a biological family where you have 2 or 3 generations to support the older adults. Our networks are all of the same or close age. So I'm losing friends now who are in their 70s and 80s. And I had a partner of 34 years who died last year. So now I don't have that loved one to care for me if and when I need care when I get older. My sister will go with her daughters and her sons. I don't have that choice.
Well, I think that's true. I think being part of San Francisco Village and different organizations, people are networking with their friends and building closer relationships. I think there's this intergenerational focus now that's really exciting, where what we're realizing is that a lot of young people actually really want to get to know older people. So in a sense, that's family. They're trying to create a new kind of family, just the way LGBT, we have created our own sense of family. When we celebrate holidays, it's not necessarily with our family, but it's the family of people who we're close to.
Things are changing. When I came out, I had to, what I would say figuratively, is cross a bridge. And I had to leave the family that I was raised in, and I had to move 3,000 miles away, and I had to create a new life because my family wouldn't accept me. And it was not socially acceptable to be gay in the straight community that I grew up in. Now, 30 years later, my cousins could not care less whether I'm gay. Bob's family, Bob, my partner who died, has a family that I'm now a part of. I am Uncle Bill in that biological family.
As we age, we develop medical problems, and a lot of us rely on the healthcare system. Yet this has been a challenge for many in the gay and lesbian community, as they often feel discriminated against, are sometimes refused care, mistreated, and judged. Finding providers they trust can be difficult. So has anything been done to ensure that this community gets the medical attention they need?
It's been a long time since I've heard of people having difficulty. I think many of us did have difficulty. I think one of the things I've heard very often happens is that when you, for example, as a lesbian, you go and see your doctor and they do not recognize your partner as being equally involved and equally important, as if it were your heterosexual husband or wife. But most importantly, they say, we have to educate our doctors. Doctors don't understand our issues, and that gets tiresome after a while.
Many gay men and lesbians are afraid of facing discrimination by healthcare providers if they move back to their family of origin, some other location, or they're afraid of moving into an assisted living facility and facing hostility. And so they go back into the closet, as we say, in order to avoid the discrimination and the hostility that they might face otherwise from a less enlightened service provider. So there's fear of retaliation or discrimination or hostility that some people face.
And I think that's another issue that seniors face is when they go into some program like assisted living, will they be the only ones? And also, will they be treated medically by not just the doctors, but even just the aides and the people who run the facility? Will their relationship be respected? Will they be able to get the same room together, or will one room be on the 3rd floor and their room will be on the 1st floor?
At the beginning of this conversation, we mentioned discrimination at work. This probably caused financial difficulties for many, like refusal to be promoted, things like that. And then when it came to their benefits, there was refusal to provide spousal healthcare benefits. Hospital visits were restricted to family only, and there were even inheritance issues. So do you think those barriers still exist today?
I think what there still is homophobia in the workplace. And in my last 3 jobs, I faced discrimination because I was out in the hiring process, and experienced discrimination while working in the settings and hostility. And so I think that wears you down. It's tiring. It's exhausting.
I think that in addition to what you're saying, Sarah, that I'll just say from my personal experience, my partner Bob and I had to get a living trust, and we were advised by our lesbian lawyer that it would be probably very advisable for us to get legally married so that we would have the protections of marriage. We didn't believe in marriage for gay people. We're of an age where we felt like that was sort of aping straight culture, but we did get married for the legal and the financial benefits and the protections of our ability to care for each other and be recognized in a medical facility as a married couple.
We've talked a lot about the challenges of LGBTQ older people living full lives, but recent surveys say that half of the older adults say they've had a good quality of life and happiness. Does this give you hope?
Certainly does.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hope, but at the same time, there is mourning. You see everything being ripped apart, books being thrown out of libraries, LGBT educational programs. The list of things that we're seeing trashed. It's really, really hard to see the stuff that you fought so hard for. And you fought against so many obstacles and so much ignorance and so much homophobia. And you endured all of that for the fight. And to see it taken dismissively, just taken apart, it's very hard to see.
It is very hard to see. I agree.
Yes, and yet we are a very resilient community.
I think that people our age, older, gay men and lesbians, are resilient. And I think, Sarah, you and I are pretty good examples of that. And just like I think with racism that has gone through evolutions of improvement and then retrenchment. And so going forward and backward, I think we're going to experience that here. We're going on a national level with this administration backward in terms of LGBTQ recognition. But we will go forward again. I think that is just the way of the future, that we will, when this administration changes, we will be recognized and go forward again. But right now, it's pretty difficult.
I just want to say that we changed the minds of people, generations and generations of minds of people, which was huge. It was just a given that if you lesbian, gay, bi, trans was all bad. We changed a culture, and you can rip apart a lot of things, institutions, but it's very hard once you've changed people's mind and they've gotten to know out LGBT people and they realize these are not demons, they are not sexual perverts, they are not this and that. That is significant.
And that has happened in our lifetime.
Yes. Yeah.
That has gone from when I was growing up, homosexuality was seen as a perversion, as a moral evil, as sinful, as worthy, as I said, of imprisonment or losing your job and being publicly disgraced, until now, where most of that has changed. Not all of that, but most of that has changed, and we can be enjoying a full life and being respected and valued as citizens like anyone else.
So what do you see as the next steps for gay adults? Do we need more policies of non-discrimination in housing, more funding for aging services, more models for reducing isolation? What's next?
I think housing is a huge issue for LGBTQ older adults. I think that we are very fortunate here to have an organization called Open House. Is that right? I think it is Open House, which develops it sponsors the development of housing, mostly in this city with Mercy Housing as the actual developer, housing for LGBTQ older adults who are lower income. And I think we're going to see more models like that in different major urban areas because a lot of LGBTQ older adults don't have a lot of money. They've lived on the fringes of society. And so at this point in time, they don't have the financial resources. So we need to find ways to take care of them. And we also still have a very large, in this city and probably across the country in different places, gay men who are living with HIV. And they are also not very financially well off. So we need to think about housing and compassion for them as well.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk to people who are not gay or lesbian that you think maybe they should know when they're dealing with older gay adults?
I think social isolation is probably the biggest issue we all face as older adults. We all have to deal with it, whether we're gay or straight, I think. But I think for LGBTQ older adults, because they've been discriminated against for a long time, some of us move inward and don't find a way to move outward. And so compassion, encouragement, and inviting people out and into the world and recognizing them with love and in support, it makes all the difference.
Even little things, when I walk in my neighborhood, when young people smile at me, it makes me happy. And sometimes they're so busy with their audio stuff and their ears and stuff, but just looking me in the eye and smiling at me, that walking past me, it makes me feel seen. And I think a lot of LGBT would say we don't feel seen.
I want to ask you before, what effect do you think the legalization of marriage for gay couples had?
I think it's been huge. I think it's recognized, as I said before, legally, it's given us the same status legally as heterosexual married couples. And it's not for everyone, but our lesbian lawyer said to Bob and me, you're leaving a lot of magic wands on the table if you don't get married. And I think that's true. There's a financial benefit of the surviving spouse being able to be recognized and to have any kind of financial benefits from the marriage, like heterosexual couples. And that's a great boon, a great benefit.
A lot of that safety is because the family of origin can step in and say, no, that's not they shouldn't be inheriting, and we should be inheriting the money. You have to kind of protect your relationship sometimes from your families.
Well, thank you both for your thoughtful and this important conversation. Our guests were Sarah Thompson and Bill Haskell. Today on News You Can Use, we're talking about embracing aging. Too many of us, and you know who you are, believe that if you don't think about the changes of aging, you won't feel them. But according to a study just released by New York University, making peace with aging could be one of the best things you do for your health.
A recent study found that women with higher levels of aging anxiety showed signs of accelerated biological aging at the cellular level. Since we live in a culture that treats aging as something to fight against, worrying about aging is common. Anti-aging cream, supplements, special foods, anyone? Yet the real takeaway from this research is empowering. Your mindset about aging may be more influential than you realize, which means shifting from how you think about getting older could actually support how well you age.
The study broke down aging anxiety into different categories. Fears about physical appearance like gray hair or wrinkles, concerns about losing cognitive abilities, and worries about health decline. The researchers say this relates to how health fears trigger the body's stress response. Chronic worry about your health can activate stress pathways that over time may contribute to cellular wear and tear. Before you start worrying about worrying, which would defeat the purpose, let's put this in perspective. The research adds to a growing body of evidence suggesting that our psychological relationship with aging matters for our physical health. Your thoughts and fears aren't just in your head. They may influence your biology in measurable ways.
If you recognize yourself in this research, here are some ways to start reframing your relationship with aging. Focus on what you can control. Invest in the habits that support healthy aging, like exercise, quality of sleep, nourishing food, stress management, and social connection. Focusing on these can help shift your attention from fear to action.
Think of aging as gain, not just loss. Research on positive aging shows that people who view getting older as a time of continued growth, wisdom, and possibility tend to have better health. Look for role models who embody positive aging.
If you catch yourself obsessing about worst-case scenarios about aging, pause and ask yourself, is this thought based on evidence or is it fear talking? Often our worries about aging are more extreme than reality. Anxiety is manageable, and you don't have to do it alone. Address your coping habits. The study found that behaviors like smoking and drinking may partially explain the link between aging anxiety and biological aging. If you're using these as coping mechanisms, consider healthier alternatives.
You don't need to love everything about aging. A little concern is normal and can even motivate healthy choices. The goal is to move from dread to action, one small mindset shift at a time.
And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks to Sarah Thompson and Bill Haskell. You can learn more about Next Village San Francisco at their website, nextvillagesf.org, or call them at 415-888-2868. To learn more about assisted living locators, contact Senior Care Advisor Brent Hensley at brent@assistedlivinglocators.com. That's BRENTH@assistedlivinglocators.com. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Claire Winslow is our engineer. And we thank you for listening. We'd love to hear what you would like us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at notbornyesterdaypodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All of these are free and let us know our audience better. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.